Wednesday, June 26, 2024. This is the Arlington County Board of Equalization hearing. There are 4 cases on the agenda today. We'll be hearing, let the record reflect that there are 5 board members present. If you all want to just say your name out loud. Starting with Mr. Yates.
Mark Yates, Jose Peñaranda.
Mary Dooley.
Ken Matskin.
Johnny Mendez.
And we also have Greg Hoffman is signed in virtually, and Mr. Lawson has recused himself, so there is a quorum present. The 4 cases today are again on the agenda. Mr. Donald Myers and Ms. Webb have a property located at 3801 14th Street, and Mr. Myers is the agent of record for the other 3 properties. Mr. Myers has requested to combine his 8 minutes per case into 1 block, so we'll have 32 minutes of his initial testimony for the 4 cases. The county has asked to combine the first 2 cases for 16 minutes combined, and then we'll do the second or the third and the 4th case separately. The order that we're going to hear the cases are, and these are by BOE case number, not RPC, is BOE case number 120, 121, 82, and 84. So again, that's 120, 121, 82. I just want to remind everybody that we're going to try to conduct ourselves in a very professional, respectful, civil manner. Interruptions are not going to be allowed from either side. Initially, you'll be introduced. You'll be told how much time that you have to speak. Once that time is expired, we expect you to stop speaking so the next speaker can be introduced and move along. Once both sides have given their testimony, we'll open it up to questions from the board. Those are only questions from the board to members of the staff. Upon completion, each side, starting with the county, will have 1 minute to wrap up, and then the appellate will have a minute to wrap up. Once that's completed, we will go to deliberations only for the board members, and then we'll repeat the process for the remaining 3. As I stated earlier, Mr. Meyer has asked to combine his block and a set time of 32 minutes for the testimony on the 4 cases. Mr. Meyer and Ms. West, you can go ahead and start and tell us about your properties in 32 minutes.
Okay, I'm all for punching somebody in the nose as a way of beginning. So let's run the first video clip. Let's get the volume.
This is not. I'm going to.
Can you increase the volume a little bit?
I'm going to advance a little bit because of the time. We thought we had more time.
But what that gentleman just said is that basically the county directed all of these vehicles to park where they're parked. And they're parked in an area that's 25 feet within my property, which is against Arlington County zoning ordinance section 14.2.3B. They're within the deed of covenant, 1985 deed of covenant that was intended to provide a protective barrier to basically mitigate the harms associated with what was then privately owned property, the M1 property. I'll explain that in a minute when we get to the first picture. In case you're wondering, sort of, okay, I'm filming this with my camera. How did I know this was going on? I think it speaks for itself. My wife and I were in our house doing whatever it was, and all of a sudden, this is what we're doing. The point of doing the video doesn't matter. There's no arguing this.
Additional vehicles, different ones, different days.
So recognize that every time you see a different appearing truck, here's a case where this is a commercial bus on a Saturday afternoon. idling for 45 minutes till finally he sees me with the camera or whatever. And then he realizes, you know, something, I may be doing something illegal here. And he pulls off the lot. Is this next? So, this picture here. Unfortunately, this will be a little bit disjointed because, okay, so let me just highlight here. I'll stand up. All right. Just so that you know, the art buses are here and here. And then when you go further up, basically past the hammerhead, these parking spaces are all used by the bus drivers. And then finally, in front of building 4, which is off the screen, there are 48 spaces, and basically that's being used by people making use of building 4, which is the only legal parking that's going on here. In any event, the Trofimencos are here. I'm here. Joan Grimbert is there, and Robbie Woodson is there. You can see basically that what the county has done by virtue of the actions taken in approving the special exception use permit for the art buses is they forced all the buses to basically congregate here. Anyway.
All the other vehicles and.
Other vehicles, yeah. I'm sorry if I said buses. That was a mistake. All right, let's go to the. So, I mean, I realize that you all don't give a damn about, you know, the fact that the county is violating the law. But anyway, so here's the anti-idling ordinance, both the state and local. You can see basically the one allows for 3 minutes, the other allows for 10. Every video clip, which you're not going to see fully, is, you know, 30 minutes of idling. And the Department of Environmental Quality at the state government, I raised the issue, they didn't do anything. The county, in essence, first said basically, oh, you know, we've got our own regulation and it doesn't apply. And when the state said, you know, you're wrong, basically then they said that the buses had to be operated for at least 15, 20 minutes pre-route for inspection. Well, I mean, the other vehicles are not buses and they're not subject to that requirement as far as I know. Anyway, let's begin with the next video. Thanks. Sorry.
You do a time check, or can you do a time check, please?
We got 24 minutes and
Oh.
52 seconds.
Thank you. Do you mind giving a 5-minute warning if you're not too much trouble?
I stopped it right.
Oh,
No,
no,
but she
no,
needs
like
5
that,
minutes.
just a 5-minute.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, thank you, thanks.
You're good to go.
We're good? Okay, thanks. And I'm just gonna clip through some of this too faster, so.
Well beyond 30 minutes, where it's idling in violation of the state anti-idling regulation, which prohibits idling for more than 3 minutes. Also, this property, this vehicle is again within 25 feet of the edge of the perimeter of the property, for which there's no parking. Not that it's obviously parked anyway, at least not in a parking space. So this again is a.
By the way, another factor in the positioning of these vehicles is because if you look, there's only shade in one area. And so during the summer months, basically, everybody wants to park under the few trees that are there separating my property, which is, by the way, I'm taking these videos from the edge of my property, which looks out onto the Quincy site.
There's zero monitoring.
By the way, again, you can get the sense of
Yeah.
the noise level that's associated with
I guess if
this
it's
vehicle.
I'd like to think charitably.
You know, with its engine idling, I guess I'd say if I got out the sound meter that I have, I'm sure it would be in excess of 80. But of course, in Arlington County, the county has exempted itself from the noise control ordinance. Anyway, you can see that the driver of the vehicle is just standing here. I'll come over and get a shot. He obviously is oblivious to the fact that, you know, I mean, again, he's in violation of the state anti-idling regulation. Instead, he's, you know, just mindlessly standing here, awaiting, I assume, the arrival of the truck that they'll be then loading on his flatbed. Also, it's notable that the police are, as you can see, sitting here. Again,
Typically, there are about 3 police vehicles on
because
the
of
site,
the
side
limited
by
shade
side.
that's available in on this parking lot,
Existing taxpayer
that police vehicle is
They do nothing. Other than
positioned in
chit-chat.
such a way that, you know what I mean, he's clearly aware of the fact that this is occurring.
But
But obviously, I think it's fair to say that the police vehicle doesn't have any knowledge, the driver of the police vehicle doesn't have any knowledge of the anti-idling
you can't expect
regulation either.
the law against itself.
And even if he did, I guess I would say it's not likely
That
that he would be taking any action. So this sort of illustrates the point that you can't count on the county to enforce its laws against itself. This vehicle is
when I
obviously in violation
on the site,
of the
there are up to 29 of those
25,
buses.
no parking
So
within
you would
25
think they
feet of the
take 29 or some number of them to get above the
property line
decibel level. No, it takes 1.
as well.
And eventually you'll see a video of just routine operations of the buses. And you'll understand at that time why it is that I say that basically, for me, the sound of buses beeping when in reverse is in my head, even when they're not beeping.
So this is an everyday or virtually everyday occurrence. And there's nothing that my wife and I can do about it.
You can forward to the
According to the camera, I've had it running for more than 5 minutes, and again, stop the camera at this point. Maybe I can find the sound meter, and I'll come back out and recording the toxic quality of the air.
each car is gone.
So about 10 minutes more have passed since I last was filming, which means that basically this vehicle has been idling for at least 16, 17 minutes at this point. The police vehicle has left the scene. There's another, this is the same vehicle that was here before, but it was attached to a sort of a flatbed trailer earlier, and now it's been separated, and I assume that there'll be some construction vehicle that will soon be appearing that will be put on the base of the or the back of the as well. Has been idling, as I mentioned. Anti-idling regulation, the state anti-idling regulation provides a vehicle is prohibited from idling.
Can you hit start?
Oh, sorry. It's like wondering why it wasn't working.
It's hard to see. Now you get a sense as to what I mean when this sound is ever present.
This one is around 4:30. I'd have to look.
4:30 a.m.
Similar time frame. This is closer to the houses for the other, of the
Further east of the
further east,
site.
closer to Nelson Street.
The fire department obviously doesn't know the ASCO. He admitted to that at a meeting of the Department of Environmental Services in November.
Hans.
Every one of these buses can be heard from inside our house, no matter where we are. What we do when we go to bed at night is we turn on a white noise machine and a fan to try to drown out the sounds. And WTOP uses the saying, facts matter. The county board and the county manager have engaged in basically lies associated with the use of this property, misrepresentations at least.
That was like an example of how they really, kind of really get into the covenant area. So they're better ones.
Okay, let's run so this one I believe is for the benefit of Robbie Woodson and Joan Grimbert, the two properties on the right, the two red dots on the right. Travis, this is relevant for purposes of your comparables.
you sort of highlight that the house that you and I have discussed, that's 2 over from where I live, that's on the street and therefore doesn't see, and it's like 50, 60 feet further away from the Quincy site, sold for a value of, I believe, 98% of your appraisal, or your appraisal was 98% of the property that it's that it sold, the price it was sold for. I guess I'd say, now watch these videos and think if you're making an apples to apples comparison.
There's also a house here. Sorry.
At the beginning of that,
It wasn't a great car. And there's
the
another
bottom line is, this is the hammerhead that closed off North Nelson Street right here. This bus came all the way up in a way that basically, showing it again.
they're different. Different. They're like 2 or 3 buses.
Okay, it's the same basically. Noise level associated with this fire truck.
This
And
was
this
like
was-
at like 1 a.m.
Yeah, 1 a.m. You can imagine how Joan Brimbert dealt with this.
It also shakes the foundation.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Travis can explain this better than I can, but her foundation is such basically that the foundation vibrates when this kind of thing happens. So my view is basically that, we deserve 100% of the reduction associated with the uses of the Quincy site, the illegal uses of the Quincy site. And then I think the reality is it would be more appropriate to be looking at some percentage, say 50% associated with the other 2 properties. Is that all the video?
Yeah, let's.
Okay.
No, we have some at the very end of this. We're closing in.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to talk to this.
No.
Let me just skip ahead then.
So again, I mentioned to you, I don't realize probably none of you have read the 1985 deed of covenant. Barnes Lawson's father negotiated it with the owners of the surrounding properties. And there were concessions made to give up the CO10 portion of the property, which is where the deed of covenant covers, to concede basically a change in the zoning from R5, single family homes, to basically the CO10, with the understanding basically that a lot of things would be done to basically mitigate the type of thing that's going on here. Everything that you see, all these trucks and everything, it was going on back in 1985. And believe me, I listened to the hearing of the board, Arlington County Board. By the way, let me stop this here. So this is, just so that you know, my house has the PVC fence in the back, which is raised because I raised the property and put a whole bunch of trees to try to block the view. The Trofimencos didn't do that. These vehicles are positioned, I'll say, rather than parked. They from day to day, they don't move. So again, what that means basically is everybody has to come directly behind my house to do whatever it is that they're doing, which is against the law.
They don't have to, but they do.
Yeah. So I guess I would say, I mean, the truth of the matter is I'm not really trying to sort of advantage myself at the expense of the Trofimencos. But in one sense, the shielding that these vehicles provide is actually makes their situation better than mine. Again, now you're looking at you're looking left towards the Trofimencos property over here. All right. Anyway. That's directly behind my property. And that vehicle moves.
This gives you a sense just to some activity.
Yeah, I mean, you can see sort of the level of activity. The parking lot is full. There aren't sufficient parking spaces.
Shouldn't be there in any event.
Yeah. One other thing I'd like to say this. So the bottom line is when the Arlington County Board approved the special use permit, basically they explained that every one of these buses, when coming in, would circle this area and go behind the back of this building to get to where you know what I mean, they were then positioned to go out. All right. Now you would think basically that would be something that, you know what I mean, would be inviolate. But no. You gonna run that or not?
No, it's coming. It'll be here in a second. It's the last thing.
Basically to make that turn, they had to go far 14 feet, 25 property line and within the deed of covenant. How are we doing on time?
We have 8 minutes in post.
Okay. Well, I'm going to basically make.
Pardon?
Can we reserve time for question, for discussion?
No.
For another case, I'm confused.
All right. So Travis, now I'm going to read you your language from your right of highlighting the sale of the.
Talking to the board. Not to-
I'm going to read it anyway. This sale, while it is the only comp you're referring to, the house that's 2 down from where I am, indicates no current depression in market values for the few blocks of 14th Street North between Quincy Street and North Monroe Street. Department does acknowledge that the property is directly adjacent to the fence line, i.e. my property, the Trofimenko's property, and also Joan Grimberg's property, are being affected similar to homes that sit adjacent to Interstate 66, Route 50, or 24-hour commercial facilities such as a hospital. To acknowledge this outside influence, the county has confirmed its 10% outside influence on both land and improvement for parcels directly adjacent to the county-owned site. Now, I would say to you that basically Route 50, I-66, 395, where the Green Valley parking garage was built, and by the way, it was built in such a way that it's too small to accommodate these buses returning. So the reality is in December 2023, the county manager announced basically we effed up and the buses will have to remain on the site for an indefinite period. The December 25th, December 31, 2025, short-term or initial term for the buses to be on the site, that no longer applies. And on top of that,
Well, that there could be a new facility.
anyway, and there's also a parking site for the buses in Alexandria, that the lease, which expires in July 2025. So those buses will also have to be accommodated. There isn't room, as you can see. So I would say to you, you've already highlighted basically that one property isn't affected by what it is that we're talking about. Talking about the house 2 down from us, right? It's not abutting the property, as you know what I mean? So you don't think there's any appropriate reduction associated with the negative externalities of the Quincy site. I would say to you, in contrast, if you think about those other sites, I mean, think about it. If I could show you or let you hear video of I-66, the traffic on I-66, before all this got started, roughly 2 years ago, I guess I'd say, up until that time, we had never complained about anything going on the Quincy site. So my view, basically, you're making a ridiculous comparison. And I don't think you really have any basis. Instead of sort of looking at comparable sales, you ought to be looking at about comparable levels of negative externalities. I've been saying for the last 2 years that no one has ever done an environmental study. We cut short the clip basically that highlighted the vehicles that were idling there. I mean, they run on diesel.
as opposed to the compressed natural gas,
You have about that.
Thank you.
right? I mean, I don't know, I admit I'm respiratory challenged or whatever, but you know, I mean, I can be around a vehicle like that for about 5 minutes and basically I can't breathe. So I guess I would say to you, as I've said in the past, you know, there are no properties in Arlington where the county violates the laws to the degree that it does on this property. Where, you know what I mean? That I guess I would say, would you be able to say, okay, yes, this is comparable. They don't exist. You know, and I guess finally I would say it's video. You can't argue with video. It speaks for itself. I have nothing further to say.
Any-
Good morning, members of the board. Good to see you again, Mr. Mendez. Good to see you for the first time.
Hold on one second.
Oh, I apologize. I'll redo that part. I was too enthusiastic.
Okay, 16 minutes.
You good? All right, good morning, members of the board. Good to see you again, Mr. Mendez. Good to meet you for the first time. The first two cases I'll present today are expressing unique concerns different from the site externalities which have been expressed by the agent. So I'd like to present those first, get those out of the way, and then speak more wholly on the site externalities. To begin, I'd like to talk to you about RPC 154616, located at 1409 North Nelson Street. This property is a one-story frame house, 1692 square foot, quality of good minus, year built and effective age of 1955 and 1980, 3-bed, 2-bath, no basement. This property had an interior and exterior review performed on 4/19/24 by Travis Sheldon and Tressa Vitus. And the appellant's concern for this case are as follows. The Department of Real Estate Assessments appears to have based the assessment or the improvement of my property on faulty information at the nature of repairs and renovations to the house completed in 2019, as well as the negative externalities associated with the Vincent Street site. The subject's property, as well as all the subject properties in these cases, are located in neighborhood 507049 Douglas Estates, which changed on average 1.2% due to sales inside the analysis period. Subject's effective age and quality were reviewed during the inspection, and some changes were made to them. The appellant is concerned about the incorrect information on their record that the county may have recorded in 2022. Due to this concern, the property was inspected on the interior and exterior. The rear one-story addition, which is 488 square feet in question, was inspected in the fall of 2022 by the department and added to the record for the 2023 assessment. Due to the 1,204 square foot section of the original home or dated condition, the interior review resulted in a reduction of the effective age. The changes to the property during the inspection resulted in an overall reduction to the 2024 assessment value from $1,018,900 to a revised value of $1,010,900. The appellant is also concerned with the use of and the externalities associated with the industrial site located near the property, which is being used by the county as a bus station. As in other scenarios where there's no direct comparable, the department looks at similar sites or sites that have similar volumes of noise or pollution that have market data to quantify the effect that the type of site has on an adjacent set of properties. This was what the department did last year in adding an additional -5% outside influence to the properties that sat directly adjacent to the fence. This brought the total outside influence for the site to -10% for all properties located adjacent to the fence line on the improvement as well as the land. This change has put the outside influence for these properties in line with the outside influence given to properties that sit along I-66 and Route 50. The county is comparing a site where buses may be stored, idling while warming up, as well as entering and exiting from the property to stretches of, and we're comparing this to stretches of busy road where adjacent properties may see thousands of cars driving, crawling, or idling in intersections along these roads for lengthened periods of time, most commonly the AM and PM rush hours. Some examples of these parcels that sit adjacent to these busy roads can be seen in properties like 24616 or 241-102, which both sit on opposing corners of the intersection at Route 50 and Fillmore, which is one of the most heavily trafficked intersections in Arlington during the AM and PM rush hours. In prior years, the county nor the agent has had any comparables to show what kind of influence the site may have on the surrounding parcels. This year, the county would like the board to look at comp number 2, which can be located on page 5, as well as comp number 2 on page 6. Same comp, just shows you the map. This is not a comp for quality, effective age, or even square footage. This is merely a comp showing the market value of a recent sale on the site side of the blocks of 14th Street North in between the Quincy Street and North Monroe Street area. Both the comp and the appellant in this specific case are not directly adjacent to the county-owned site and are both buffered by at least one property. This comparable property sold for $1,249,000 on September 14th, 2022. The sale occurred inside the most recent sales analysis period and was used in adjusting the appellant's neighborhood values for 2024. On January 1st, 2024, this property was assessed at $1,226,500. This sale currently has a 98% assessment to sale ratio. The sales comps, ASR, and location indicate that there is no current need for adding an outside influence to the record of properties like the appellant's property that are not sitting directly adjacent to the fence line. This is similar to blocks that are adjacent to busy roads where only the homes that receive the influence for the busy roads are those who are directly bordering or adjacent to it. This sale, while it is the only comp, indicates no current depression in market values for the few blocks on 14th Street between Quincy Street and North Monroe Street. The department does acknowledge that the properties that sit directly adjacent to the fence line are being affected, similar to the homes that sit on the side directly next to 66 or Route 50. The appellant's agent also noted an issue with air quality, noise pollution, and the department not conducting an air quality study to be in violation of IAAO standards. When the department observes a trend of depressed sales around a common unique characteristic, it will conduct a study to try to isolate and quantify what that effect on the market is. The study would determine what the change in the market value is, and adjustment would be set accordingly. This is typically conducted for properties near commercial sites or busy roads, and the result will identify a depression in market value, but it will not isolate what specifically it is about the site, whether it's the noise, the light, the air quality, that is the issue. Even if the county was to conduct an independent study on air quality, which would be conducted by another department, the appraiser would then go and look at the recent market values in that area to determine if or how much of an adjustment or outside influence should be applied to the parcels. In this case, there have been no recent sales comps to show depressed values, show a need for adding influence, or how to quantify the effect the site may have on adjacent properties. As noted prior, in scenarios where there are no direct comps, the department looks at similar sites that have market data to quantify the effect on the type that the site has on adjacent set of properties. I think it's very important to note that the IAAO standard on valuation of properties affected by environmental contamination states, and I quote, "The degree to which values are affected by air pollution depends on the economic cost to escape the pollution. For example, air pollution may occur equally throughout a major center. Because of distance to alternative work sites or other costs of doing business, it may be non-competitive or undesirable to locate in less polluted locations. In this case, the effect of the air pollution would be consistent and already accounted for in the market. No additional adjustment would be necessary unless a regulatory agency mandates a reduction of pollution." Also from the same manual, and I quote, "Per noise pollution includes unwanted sound generated by airport, road traffic, and heavy industry. Effects should be considered similar to the locational and neighborhood desirable influences and may be incurable economic obsolescence. However, data on the market effects are essential before any conclusions can be drawn." More simply put, even if we were to do an air quality or noise study was performed, the quantitative effects would be derived from the current and recent market data. The only recent comp for this area is currently showing a 98% assessment ratio. Based on the changes made during the inspection and the comparable properties provided by the department, it is recommended that the 2024 assessment be reduced be confirmed at the revised assessment of $1,010,900. This amount can be confirmed as fair and equitable based on the sales analysis that was done today. That's my first presentation. So we can stop the clock.
So Tony's.
The other property, the changes made to the improvement.
Oh, I'm sorry, if you want me to do this, I apologize.
Yeah, isn't that
The second case, which has a unique characteristic that was a concern, is 504019. It's located at 1418 North Nelson Street. This property is a one-story frame house, 1,362 finished square footage, average plus quality, year built, effective age 1952 and 1972, 3-bed, 1-bath, no basement. There was no exterior or interior inspection conducted for this property. The appellant's concerns are the negative externalities associated with the uses being made of the Quincy Street site, as well as they feel that DREA did not equalize their property in a proportionate downward direction with the rest of the properties along the fence line. I'd like to start by addressing that latter concern first. When researching the property during the BOE review, it was discovered that the outside influence applied to their improvement value was still at only -5%. The land had been moved to -10, but the improvement was not at -10 yet. This has been updated to -10 and equalized with all the homes adjacent to the county-owned site. The influence was to be originally applied for this year's assessment. The correction was performed during the BOE review process, so this applied for this year. The appellant is concerned with the use of the industrial site adjacent to the property. As we spoke about with the last property, when reviewing the changes from last year, which was increasing the outside influence from -5 to -10% on both land and improvement, and researching other properties with similar outside influences, quantitative data, busy roads such as the Highway 66 and Route 50. The county has decided to confirm the influence on the property at -10%. This influence is applied both to land and improvement. As noted again in the prior case, in scenarios where there are no direct comps, the department looks at similar sites with similar noise and pollution to pull quantitative data and use as the influence on this property. In prior years, again, the county has not had any comps. I'd like you again to refer for this case to comp number 2 on page 5 and comp number 2 on page 6. As noted in the prior presentation, this is not a direct comp for quality, effective age, or square footage. It's merely showing the market value and the lack of depression in market value and the blocks of 14th Street. The DREA does acknowledge that the properties that adjacent to the fence line are affected similar to homes that are on busy roads, such as the ones we've stated. To acknowledge this, the outside influence, we have confirmed the 10% outside influence. And for this case, it is recommended that the 2024 assessment be confirmed at the revised value of $872,800. Thank you very much.
Okay. Questions from board members? Mr. Mendez.
Yeah, for the appellant, I know that there was one video that was shot from your neighbor's property, but can you confirm were all the videos shot from 1409 North Nelson Street address?
No, so you said 98% of the videos were shot from my property, 3801 North 14th Street.
Okay.
The 2 videos that I showed that, highlight the, the effect around the hammerhead.
3 videos.
3 videos were shot. Well, so one person actually took a video in a house. She lives in a house that's actually further west to east, kind of, right? I don't know why she was there at the time, but she, at 1:30 in the morning or whatever it was,
She was nearby, heard
she
it.
was nearby, heard the fire truck or whatever, and I guess investigated. She took that video.
So the videos were shot from various locations?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If I could just jump in too on the videos, I mean, we probably have the best setup for it, just in terms of, like the ability to have kind of free behind our fence, there's not as much, we can get a clearer view,
Sure.
I guess.
Thank you.
And technologically, we've kind of figured it out, right? So we just have more video.
Sure, makes sense.
Mr. Davis.
Couple questions. I guess the first one, you kind of did answer, but it dealt with the work, like the idling trucks and stuff there. That's because it's a staging area, correct? It's not just there's work being done there. It's okay.
And it's elsewhere too in the area. They're staging.
Okay, to the county.
So can I just clarify too? We actually intentionally did not include video where they were repairing the sewer line. We didn't include any of that,
Okay,
right?
that's fine.
So 100%, because we obviously, we want to operate in facts. We have video of that just because it picks it up, but we excluded all of that.
The county clarify that there is a deed of covenant that does affect this property of the 25 feet?
We didn't know that that exists, but we did not consider that as part of our market.
Okay. That's,
Piggyback on there, can I ask why not?
Because external obsolescence or economic obsolescence always reverts back to valuation and values pulled from the market itself, not a restrictive covenant where somebody might be in violation of that. It's actually looking at what existing on the site, and considering how does that relate back to market value. So if there's violations that, they're in violation of, against the county or the covenant, that's aside from the fact that we're looking at it from a market perspective. And where is that, impact happening in the market?
Go ahead.
question, just out of curiosity, because you see it on all the videos and so forth, the weight parking lines, how far out are those? Do you have any idea?
What parking?
The weight parking
The-
lines that
The
extend
line,
from
the
the property?
lines, the striping
Oh,
that they,
I mean, a car, truck, it's 20 some feet.
Yeah, it
So-
can't accommodate the parking spaces.
Okay, so those parking spaces are basically within that area of covenant.
Yeah, as well as in some cases, the 25 feet.
And if they were outside that, that would meet that requirement, I guess. This kind of was what I'm wondering. All right, so it sounds.
But recognize that the parking spaces are designed for ordinary, cars,
to service the office.
right? In some cases, basically, by the way,
I just was asking about the
Okay.
distance of how far out they really are. And I guess the appellant also, and it's an assumption that the state law does allow the county to exempt itself from some of these things. Is that, I assume you've confirmed that.
yeah, no, actually, here's what happened. I'll try to make this short. The county claimed that it was exempt from the anti-idling ordinance. The members of the DEQ, the Department of Environmental Quality, said, no, you're
From
not.
the state.
Yeah, state, what did I say, county?
No, but
Anyway.
clarify.
So the county came back and now changed its explanation and said, we can't comply with the state regulation because we are actually required by the manufacturer to run a pre-route inspection of the vehicles, right? And that takes 15 or 20 minutes. By the way, at the time, the buses were idling for 2 to 3 hours, all of them, 2 to 3 hours. Now, I won't tell you basically that that's the case today. I don't know what the time is basically, but let's say
The
it's
state
closer to.
law allows them to basically say we can't comply or exempt.
No, it didn't.
I did from an exemption standpoint, but from the fact they can't comply, buses have to do this idling and checkup. Is the state had anything further to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say, so I needless to say, with my usual personality, blasted the state for basically not doing anything to enforce the regulation. And essentially what came back to me was a message from the first person I contacted, said, if you seriously thought that we were going to enforce our regulation against the Arlington County government, you're basically out to lunch.
It's just, as far as the question on the lines, the appellant gave a great picture. And it's actually in his property, so case 82. It shows a great picture of it. Shoreline, and this is where those buses were swimming.
Yeah.
And then those are the long. But that's in there if you want to see. Okay.
Yeah,
Mr.
two
Mayor.
easy questions. First one, I understood, and now I'm not so sure, so I want somebody to make sure I understand. This covenant is 25 foot, that's a,
The covenant is not 25 feet.
There are two things.
The covenant is the CO10 zone of the Arlington County Quincy site.
Should I
it's
bring
on
it?
public land, it doesn't affect your land, this 25 foot barrier.
No,
Go ahead.
Can I bring up the picture? Is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, I just walk you through it. In 1985, the deed of covenant was put in place because a portion of the, what is now the Quincy site, previously was not the Quincy site, was a wooded area zoned R5. And the owner of the property, private owner of the property, negotiated an arrangement which the county board blessed, saying, okay, in consideration for a change of the zoning from R5 to CO10. And so basically, that, you know, we would put in this deed of covenant. So if you look at building 4, which is the eastmost building, I know you know the site, so there are 48 parking spaces there. All of that is within the deed of covenant. And so basically what happens is if you go to the property,
There we go.
so this is the M1 zone. And this is the CO10 zone. So, I mean, up to the right, basically, it's all CO10. But as you come down, and this is the, you know, you saw the building that basically is behind the Trofimenko's property. It comes down to here. So in certain areas, this is more than 25 feet from the property, you know, the property line. But in other cases, it's the 25 feet that actually provides more protection for.
So that green, is that parking space with striping? Or
Yes.
Okay, great.
There's tree coverage.
Trees.
Here's the bowling alley.
So there's parking like here, but it's not apparent because there's some trees.
Everything that you are seeing primarily from the videos
I mean,
is basically right here.
Yeah, I mean, it was a strip of CO10, then as you go north, it's M1. So obviously you're not going to put a commercial office building on that strip. I mean, that was, I assume, presumed to be parking.
Yeah, so I mean, you raise another subject. I'll make this quick. So building
I'm sorry,
1,
is there-
I don't understand what the contention of this, and again, what I heard was a 25-foot covenant. I don't,
it's not a covenant, it's an ASCO provision.
Oh, I can go to the slide. It actually, I think it comes.
how does it,
There's no parking allowed at all within 25 feet of the residential property.
Here it is.
okay,
Here it is. So it's two things. The covenant provides protections and then,
Now, this is the anti-idling regulation. This is-
so there's supposed to be no.
sorry, let me go to,
In
Within
simple language,
25 feet.
within 25 feet of private.
Right, which basically is, again, a reflection of if the county is making use of the public parking spaces, then there needs to be a 25-foot buffer.
here we go. It's right there. That's the regulation.
So when this property was in private hands, there was no limitation on the parking, obviously. You know, I mean, so the bottom line is that the deed of covenant didn't change that. But when the county bought the property, oops. So now all of a sudden, a lot of parking spaces got eliminated.
Then you explained, you're supposed to
Okay.
25 feet of park. So my second question,
Okay, hold on, could you just take that down so we can get Mr. Hoffman back up here?
Okay, sure.
Go ahead, your second.
my second question was on the two Nelson, which we just talked about, the two Nelson
Yeah.
Street properties. One has they're diagonally across the street from each other, and one has a outside influence and one doesn't. How do you determine? I think this has come up last week. How do you determine what has influence and what doesn't?
And I apologize, because I was looking at the screen and Mr. Hoffman coming back there.
I'm
Could you
sorry.
repeat the first part of the question?
Why does one of the Nelson Street properties have 10%, which is more than many that we've seen? In fact, last year it was 5%, as I understand from your.
So we're
But the
mirroring,
other diagonally doesn't have any. How do you-
so like a busy road, which we're comparing this to, only the properties that are adjacent directly to that busy
Ah.
road receive the influence. Miss Winston's property has a 1-house buffer, as well as the comp has a 1-home buffer from the fence line. So we're treating the same.
When we conduct those studies, I mean, we're looking at other industrial sites, we're looking at sites where there is parking right next to residential, you know, properties that's active. So that's why I say if there's any kind of violation of the law, we're more focused on what's actually physically happening at that site. We pick up improvements that violate the law all the time. We look at what exists there and we try to make those considerations back on what market data we have.
Yeah.
So we're trying to compare the best market data that we can
Yeah.
find for similar sites.
Translated, that means they don't pay any attention to the violations of the law.
All right, I have a question for the county.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so historically, we've looked at this and that the case has been simplified to all these properties are adjacent to the bus garage. But as we saw in the video, it seems like it's being used for more than a bus garage. We've got fire trucks there, police, we got commercial vehicles unloading. Yeah, well, what is all that? Who is that?
That's something I couldn't speak to, as we are tasked with evaluating the market value of properties, not the legality of ongoings of county activities. I can't speak to it personally. I can say that, when we look at the site, we look at it as something that's creating an above average amount of noise and pollution, which is comparable to another quantitative study we have on a busy road such as Route 50, where you're having above average levels of noise and pollution for extended periods of time. And you're not seeing 20, 30, maybe 40 buses come through the site. You're seeing thousands of vehicles come by. And those are including buses, trucks, jake braking, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, there's a lot of noise that are associated with busy roads that some people may just take for granted. But I imagine if you lived on that corner of 50 and Fillmore, you would feel those effects every day. And what we do is you could have a blimp landing next to the appellant's neighborhood, and we would still go back and derive our quantitative adjustments based on the market data. And so that is what the IAA handbook tells us to do. That is what it requires us to do to meet its standards. And if we're looking at the market area and the market values that are currently available, there's only one. And that one speaks to us and says, there's only a 98%
Okay.
ASR here.
All right, follow-up question then on that. So, from a standpoint, and we've seen this in other properties, simply like the hospital, people come in and say, oh, we hear the ambulances, the hospital was there. Route 50 was there when those houses were put in. These houses were there before all of this commercial activity started.
Yes.
Different. We're asking questions. So that being said, I mean, what's the term for the county to do this? I mean, in previous years, we heard, 2 years, this is going to be over.
Well, unfortunately, Madam Chair, when you're asking me things that are outside of my purview, I can't tell you specifically. I'm not the county manager or the one that runs the site. I can't tell you what their plans are for it, and I can't tell you what they're going to do. What I can tell you is the concern about, this site going past its expected due date. We would say that all of these influences that we're putting on the record are permanent. They're going to exist until this site is no longer there. As long as the site exists, these acknowledgements will exist as well. If the appellant had brought some sort of market data or some sort of comp to show us, even a site comp of something else around the county that we could look
You
at.
only have one comp, if there's.
Well, no, I'm just saying, even to the site, even to that type of site, we've received no.
Where is there another site?
There isn't, and that's the difficulty we both have. And so,
Right, well, so you're making it sound like, oh, they didn't bring something, but it doesn't exist.
well, what I'm saying is there is only one comp currently. And to follow our IAAO standards, we would look at that comp as well as look at other quantitative studies that mirror some of the influences this would have. And we're doing the best we can with the limited information that we have, and we're following the standards that we're required to do.
So similar situations, if there's a big construction site, like the building of a hospital or a school that we've seen. We've seen cases where people live right next to all that construction that goes on for 2 or 3 years. And we did not apply an adjustment to that situation as it wasn't going to be permanently impacted. But in this case, it's a permanent situation that we're acknowledging.
Right, so to me, those seem like apples and oranges.
You were just asking about new activity, and how long it's going to be there. Are you going to ramp up the acknowledgement of the activity that current? We don't know how long it's going to be there. We're saying we're acknowledging this activity with the permanent adjustments that we have in place.
And when this site went into place, obviously there was an appeal first year, which we applied a influence on. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we've been to the site this past couple of years to see what's going on with the video. And the acknowledgements, I think, have changed, even going back prior 3 years to make that adjustment acknowledged as well. So.
And I think I know the answer. There's 10%, or in one case, it's 25% collectively. Are there other locations? 5, 10%.
Outside of multi-jurisdictional properties, which you would have a larger reduction on for a city. Facts.
Yeah.
There are some properties. I would say that the total influence on the appellant's property, including the pipe stem, the easement, as well as site influence, is one of the larger combinations of influences. And I would say that the total effect of it is somewhere in the $350,000 to $400,000 range in total reduction. Yeah, and just roughly speaking. It's one of the more heavily adjusted properties through the county that I've seen.
You're talking about 3801.
Yeah, we're not talking about
Right, we're not.
Yeah, we're not talking about the.
Yeah, no, that's actually, I
1409.
apologize.
Yeah.
That's the formatting. Yeah, okay.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Just a question for the county on the first case at 1409.
Right.
Yep,
Hold on one second. You're really loud. Okay, go ahead.
I can whisper if you need me to. 1409 North Nelson. I'm just looking at the property 1405 next door. It just seems like there's a discrepancy there in the value of the. It looks like the lot was the same. The structure was like 40% higher for 1409. Is that looking at the property card? Is that due to the addition?
It is the addition
yeah.
as well as the updates that were done on the inside with the addition. That addition included a brand new kitchen, a brand new bedroom, and a full bath in a house that was originally a 1-bath house.
Okay, and then the 1405 is pretty much original.
Yes,
in
sir.
comparison. Okay,
There was
and
no
then
inspection conducted on that.
and then those properties, because that's that one house removed from the property line. So those do they not have the 10% adjustment?
So 1418 should, which is 1519. But the 1409 does not because of the buffer.
Okay, that I'm reading it correctly then. Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Hoffman?
No, those were my two questions.
Okay, so just so we don't have to recall this, you still had 5 minutes left. You really didn't address the noise. You just talked about the 2 reductions on these 2 properties. So do you have anything?
I apologize. I thought I addressed it as far as what we were applying as far as.
You don't have anything else to say other than what you said?
Well, I mean, the noise, like with the pollution, regardless of what any study, whoever conducted it, it would still require the appraiser to go back to the market. That's what I was noting about the noise or the pollution, is that we're required by the standards that Mr. Myers had brought up to us to look at the market and derive our changes out of that. So if we're to do that, we're doing more than we're required to do in making the acknowledgement on that site, which I think is something that we've done for the past 2 years. But that's all I have to say.
Okay, but just to confirm, so to look at the market, you're looking at 1 sale.
Well, we're looking at the only sale, and we're looking at all of the sales that are involved in the busy road studies along the highway, Route 50.
Route 50 for error. We've heard this case 3 years in a row, extensively around the county to do due diligence on this site. So you're talking about multiple years of analysis, even going back 5 years. When we conduct those studies, we go back in time to pull more data to be able to analyze it, to get a better data set. And we've definitely done that on the site. So.
All right, and one last question. Is there any other residential properties that we're assessing in the county that abuts similar type of zone property?
Not that I know, and Mr. Myers has even notated that the Shirlington site doesn't have a residential area around it.
The nearest residential property is 0.3 of a mile from
from that site. So this one is unique in that there's not a direct comp to it, which we've conceded every year. But as far as our standards of practice and what we do in that situation, we will look at similar site influences.
Just didn't want to not ask that question.
No, I appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Just
Mr. Penneron?
to Mr. Myers, I just wanted to mention, what was the response from the Department of Environmental Services? That concern. As far as the air quality, basically, I guess they would just compare that with
Yeah. So they had somebody come out and, observe what was going on the property for several hours.
Okay.
Unannounced. And basically they were challenged. The person was challenged. What was he doing on the property? And basically his report confirmed everything that I had claimed that was going on about on the site.
We have a written report
report we can share.
I didn't include that because I don't think that you pay any attention to that kind of thing, frankly. But so then, I told you they went through the exercise. But, I had the sense from the very beginning that ultimately this was going nowhere. And I frankly think that, the fellow who was the original senior person that I spoke to is a lawyer, or was a lawyer with a very prestigious private law firm in Richmond. I came from a similar background. So I thought we had a rapport with one another. And then he frankly put in his final email in March, basically saying, look, the bottom line is if you think that we're going to enforce this regulation against the county board, you must be effing crazy. So
There was some back channeling between the, I guess, I don't know, Department of Environmental Services who runs the buses and the DEQ, right? So we were not party to any of that, but there was,
yeah,
we thought we originally were on a good path in terms of the DEQ, and then all of a sudden, by alerting them to the issues and then giving us a report indicating that they found what we said they found, and then things changed.
by the way,
result was that nothing was done.
so, what's it?
The result is that pretty much nothing was done.
Yeah, and I guess I'd say, I mentioned to the Department of Environmental Quality that there are filters that can be put on these, they're at negligible cost that would reduce the particulate matter. And by the way, also in the time that we're talking about, maybe you might have seen this, I don't know, in DC, the DC government sued Greyhound on the basis of an anti-idling violation. The case got settled. I don't know what the amount was settled, but in any event, that was an issue of violating the anti-idling regulation. And I thought surely, frankly, so the way I left it basically is after I finished with the county board, and recover whatever amount it is that I'm going to recover, I'm coming after them.
Any final questions?
Well, yeah,
Okay,
can I ask one thing?
absolutely. Mr. Wilson.
This is on 1409 Nelson. Looking at the improvements, and I'm comparing it specifically and only to comp 3. Okay, and I'm looking at the improvement. This is the first of the two cases. And to my eye, having done this for more than a couple of years, it seems that the improvement, the land is fine, a little bit different neighborhood, they're similar. But the improvement value for comp 3 seems to me significantly more, not 100%, but more than the 2% that's shown here, superior to the subject, or the subject's more than 2% inferior, based on the number of square footage and bathrooms and age and all that. Is this, these two and all the others, is this pretty much you put in your data and the software program then compiles the various constituents and brings out a number? Or is this again, no, we have a total?
Believe, reference that. Yeah, that's
And that's why land values could change for sure. I'm not, has nothing to do with it.
So it's in a different neighborhood, and the reason we had to draw from a different neighborhood, we noted before, there are very few comps in this neighborhood, specifically this last past year. There were 4 open market sales comps inside this neighborhood. Obviously, we didn't have a whole lot of variation in house types that sold. So we drew from a different neighborhood.
I understand that.
So the LM, the location multiplier in the neighborhood.
That's the answer.
Yes.
That's what I was missing.
Yeah, sorry. I was getting to it. I was just slow rolling to it. I was building up.
Very good.
No final questions? All right, Mr. Shelton, you have a minute to do a wrap up for 1409.
1409. So the county has used all the available market data and available comps to set a fair and equitable outside influence for the properties adjacent to the fence line. For the properties taking off the fence line, we are looking at comp number 2, showing that there's no current depression in that immediate area. Only in comp that is there does show a 98% DSR. And we recommend that the revised 2024 value of $1,010,900 be confirmed for 2020.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Myers, if you take a minute to wrap up, sir.
Yeah, I guess I would say,
Is this wrapping up in total or?
I'd like
Just
to,
for this case.
Okay.
you know, I have high regard for Travis Shelton and for Derek Dubé. I frankly think that there is any ethics in the Arlington County government. They actually have it, which is a notable exception from frankly the rest of the government. So I guess I would, you know, you saw the videos for the first time today. Were you shocked?
Sorry, you wrapping up to us.
Yeah,
This is not
Yeah,
time.
it's
to-
All right.
I could talk to you after the.
Yeah. Yeah, you all talk about sort of comparables and all of this, and I still go back to the basic question. Where is the comparable to what it is that I'm dealing with? And by the way, I checked the numbers at one point in time in my first year, and I saw reductions in the value of 50% in some instances. And they were not as close to, you know, an M1 zone as I am. So use your common sense.
Just among the board. All right, just among the board members.
For this first case.
For this first case only, yeah.
Good.
Thoughts where? Go ahead, Mr. Hoffman.
Yeah, asked about the property next door at 1405 because I thought they looked pretty similar, but and then I started getting into the property card and let me just kind of go all 4 real high level because I have a different opinion of the second 2 cases than I do of the first 2. I think 1409 at right about $1 million, it doesn't seem out of whack, right? You're shielded 1 house removed from the bus activity. I think it seems like there's a consistent kind of approach applied. Now you can argue about the outside influence factors, the actual number, but this one being 1 house off, being kind of away from the activity. I also noticed it looks like, you know, both of those 1409, 1405, they all have private driveways. There's zone parking on that street. How much that's enforced, I'm not sure. But I felt like a $1,010,000 is probably a reasonable value for that. Similar at 872 on case 2. That one's got the 10% outside influence factor. I don't think the effects are as bad as the Myers house or the Trofimenko house. So on the first 2 cases, I think those values are probably pretty indicative of where the market would be for those houses. When you get up north of $1 million, there's a little bit higher standard for a buyer, and that's when, you know, you start to look at people being much more discerning about what's going on in their backyard. You know, if you find a single family home on a conforming R5, R6 lot in Arlington County and it's $1 million or less, people are usually okay if there's some sort of factor. There's a reason why it's $1 million or less. You know, 7-Eleven's across the street. The busy road is out front, whatever it is. But there's buyers that are willing to make those sacrifices to get into Arlington and have a single family home. So I mean, in short, I'm okay as far as the first case goes with the county's number.
Mr. Mendes.
I was just going to say, I lump them 2 together. I thought they both benefited from this appeal, appropriate appeal, and otherwise I share exactly what Greg just said.
Mr. Yates?
Do you think, and Greg, you too, I guess, that even though they're not adjacent to the site in question, that there is, i.e. the beeping, the everything else that does travel, And I've been there, heard it too, but at other times. But I mean, is there consideration the fact that they're not right there, but they are in that neighborhood and a couple of houses off of it does have some impact sound wise.
I think that's what the county's trying to prove with comp two,
But not comp one. Or or I'm sorry.
comp two, the one that,
Yeah.
it sold it, what they predicted it would sell for.
Okay.
It's evaluated with, and
Yeah.
that's their case.
I'll answer.
Yeah, again, we're talking only about the first two.
You're right.
Mark, I just think that there's a big enough pool of buyers at $1 million flat that somebody's going to be okay with the beeping.
Yeah, okay. And you're right. The comp did sell and it's in that area.
Said it itself.
Yeah.
What do you think? Real-
I looked at all the four cases and I think the fact that the noise is something that many counties, many jurisdictions will address, specifically with airport noise. But I haven't seen anything as far as environmental studies. Anything, we don't even have an addendum. Virginia Association of Realtors, the Northern Virginia Association of Realtors, Maryland Association, they have nothing in reference to environmental issues as far as, well, they have radon and all that stuff, Kind of so as far as there's really no addendum other than specific.
Yeah. Contingency.
Right. So that would, in fact, affect the market value if there was some validation for that. And, like in each case, I think really the burden of proof from any appellant to provide that information, whether it affects or not. I think with this first case, yeah, I'm okay with Mr. Hawkins. Revised assessments.
Yeah, I think we're kind of debating two separate things here. Value of property, the other is the parking, whether that's supposed to be there or not. But other than that, I think the county did a good job equalizing things. And it's below the average change in the neighborhood. So I'd be okay with the value for the first one and then as well as the second one. It's down 5% on the second property and the neighborhood average is 1.3%. The county's reviews numbers.
Yeah, for you on a motion. Somebody like to make a motion?
This
This is on
just-
RPC 150400016 at 1409. North Nelson.
I would go ahead and move that we reduce the assessment to the proposed amount of $1,010,900.
I'll second.
Okay, motion is second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. It is unanimous that county's reduced number of 1 million has been confirmed for RPC 150400016. Okay, so the next case, which we've talked quite a bit about, is RPC 150400019. And so questions from board members on that. None? Mr. Hoffman? No questions?
No.
Okay, Mr. Shelton, do you have anything to say in a 1 minute wrap up?
Just that the county, again, used available market data and our standard operating procedures on a parcel adjacent to a site with no direct comps. The county has no market data showing a depression for sales values in the area. The only comp has a 98% BSR. And we recommend that the value be confirmed at the revised value of $872,800.
I think, Mr. Meyer, if you take a minute to wrap up on the 1418 North Nelson Street.
Yeah, I don't really think I want to add anything. So, with respect to either of the first two properties, other than that, again, Robbie Woodson's property has an unobstructed view to the county site, the Quincy site. The comparable has the benefit of having my property, and other properties that block the noise and the visual aspects of the Quincy site. I don't know how you can ignore that, but in any event, you have, and I've realized that trying to reason with you all is pointless.
Thank you. All right, it's just among the board. Second case.
I think it came down to the fact buyer. They made a decision. And knowing that that other site's over there, and there's, it's just what it is.
Anything different? Here, Mr. Hoffman, any final comments? Go ahead.
I mean, I kind of touched on it earlier, but I think at 872, 800, there's a buyer for this house. It's also kind of nice that it's a cul-de-sac or a hammerhead. Some people are looking for that. You know, it's looks like it's zone parked. There's private driveway. You've got some grading and shielding. There's still a view of the parking lot, but it's definitely not as bad as the other two houses. And we've got the 10% adjustment, I think, that the county put on this property already.
Mr. Metzger?
I was going to add, I think the appellant made the case for the additional 5% outside influence, that there are trucks, even though it's farther distant and has aspects that Greg brought up, there are big trucks coming up there for whatever their reasons, and they were more impacted than the county understood and has reacted accordingly.
Somebody like to make a motion?
I move that we accept the county's revised assessment. Sorry, $872,800.
There's a motion on the table. Second. Okay. Mendez, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? That is unanimous as well. County's revised number of 872,800 has been confirmed. So the third case on the agenda is RPC 1504054 at 3801 14th Street North.
Madam Chair, I'll be presenting both these cases together as,
Okay.
just to let you know, the presentation will cover, unless you want me to repeat the same thing.
No.
More for y'all's.
So we'll set the timer at 16 minutes and
Excellent.
don't use it. That's
The next two properties I'll be presenting about are 154054, as well as 154055. These properties are located at 3801 14th Street North and 3811 14th Street North. I think we're all very clear on the basis of concerns for these two properties as far as the externalities, the exterior site. In addressing those concerns, both property owners have received a negative 10% influence on both the land and improvement, putting them in line with busy roads such as Interstate 66 and Route 50. The county has decided to confirm this outside influence. Examples of other busy roads are the two parcels we saw along the side of Route 50 and Fillmore. As noted in the two prior cases and other scenarios where there are no direct comps, the department looks at similar sites that have market data to quantify the effect and the type of the site has in adjacent properties. This is what the department did last year in adding that additional 5% outside influence to the land and improvement value. This brought the total influence to negative 10% for all the properties that are located adjacent to the county site. This changed the outside influence for these properties and put them in line with the outside influence given to properties along the busy roads. Again, I would ask the county look at the comp 3705 14th Street North. If in this situation, if the board looks at pages 6 through 9 in the packet, it will give an indication of the proximity of the comp to the agent of the property, as well as the fence line bordering the site. As noted prior, this is not a comp for quality, effective age, or finished square footage. It's merely showing no depression in market value in that direct area. Sales kit, the sale, while it is the only comp, and we've covered that multiple times, indicates no current depression. And the department does acknowledge that the properties that sit adjacent to the fence line are being affected similar to those that sit along Route 50 and 66. Again, the appellant noted an issue with air quality and the department not conducting the air quality study. I would like to point out again the quotes from the actual manual that the appellant had referenced. The degree to which values are affected by air pollution depends on the economic cost of escape pollution. For example, air pollution may occur equally throughout a major center because of the distance to alternative work sites. That may be non-competitive or undesirable to locate in less polluted locations. In this case, the effect of air pollution will be consistent and already accounted for the market. And I think it's very important to note no additional adjustment will be necessary unless regulatory agencies mandate a reduction. That's from our manual. And per the noise, it states the same thing about the unwanted noise generated by road traffic, heavy industry, and the airport. And the most important part about that quote is data on the market effects are essential before any conclusions can be drawn. So if we're talking about the noise being a factor, the manual tells us that we have to derive that data from the market. If there's no market data available, that's when we mirror. In this situation, there is one comp. Obviously, it's not a swath of homes, but it is one comp to show us the current temperature of the depression or lack thereof depression in that area. All four cases involved concerns about the site going past its permanent time or its temporary time. As I noted before, these negative outside inflectors are permanently added to each record and will be on there for every future year's valuation. As long as the site exists, those will exist as well. For parcel 154054, it's recommended that the 2024 assessment be confirmed at $1,431,000. This can be confirmed as fair and equitable based on the sales analysis done to the neighborhood. And for parcel 154055, it is recommended that the 2024 assessment be confirmed at $1,508,800.
Thank you. Questions from the board members?
Yes, sir.
Amendment.
For 3801 14th Street, there's a 25% reduction there.
Yes, sir.
Does that apply to the land and
No, so we were talking about this earlier, and it was in a prior case that we probably should have waited for this one. This has a multitude of influences applied for a multitude of reasons. So you have 10% applied to the land and the improvement for the specific site influence we're referencing currently, and then there's also a pipe stem negative 10% on the land, which is a standard operating procedure for the county to put it on the land, as well as a other, which is consistent with the easement that we discovered last year on Mr. Meyer's property that we have adjusted for as well.
and so that's only on the land 5%?
Correct.
And the pipe stem, 10%.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Other questions? Mr. Hoffman?
Nope.
No? 1 minute to tell us anything additional.
This one logged me up. Give me 1 second. It's incorrect. So just to summarize, regardless of what any study that may have been conducted or would be conducted would show, we would still have to go back to the market data to derive the quantitative influence that we'd have on this property from the site. Currently, there's only one comp. We've talked about it. We beat this comp to death. But it is the only comp that shows us that there's no current depression in market in that area. We recommend that both parcels at 3801 and 3811 be confirmed their 22.
Mr. Meyer?
Yeah, I always sort of big picture, common sense. So let me ask you this. Imagine a married couple going to visit my house as I put it on the market. And by the way, I've intended to do that and do a private sale so that I don't get slammed by people writing comments basically through social media. But so they walk into the house, they go back to the kitchen. This is the most common area you think most people sort of spend most of the time in. And the wife looks out the window, or the husband, whatever, forgive me. And they see basically just the buses right behind us and off to the left, all right? Greg Hoffman made this comment. So this is a $2 million property, fair market value, absent all the things. And so she looks, or he looks at the property and then basically says, okay, without words, because they don't want to be hurt, they make eye contact or whatever, and basically they're out the door. That's what I think we're talking about.
Right, it's just among the board.
Well,
Mr. Yates.
I looked at it and tried to do a comparison without the adjustments. And, right, he's right, it's a 1.8 or higher property under other circumstances. But that person looking out the window, I think, given the assessment, has dropped it $400,000 plus. So that's the adjustment. And someone looking out that window has said, gee, will I buy this? And I know that I'm gonna look at those buses for a while, or they, and to be able to buy it for $400,000 less, $450,000 less.
Or 500,000.
They might consider that. And that still might sell with that adjustment.
We would spend the $20,000 and all their, you hate seeing buses.
Build your own-
Fence
build your own
Doesn't
wall.
address the noise in the air. It certainly addresses, it's an easy problem to solve, sight the view.
For $500,000, are you willing to, would the buyer be willing to accept that? If they could buy a house that's $500,000 less.
I think so. I'm saying you just only talked about the view.
Yeah,
That's an easy. fix.
yeah, we're looking at, what we're doing is saying, does this property, is it equalized? Is the county correct in how the analysis? And yes, and then it goes on to the exterior, other aspects, those adjustments.
So.
And I'm thinking it does adjust.
It does. That's what I want.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yeah, I was looking at a larger adjustment on the outside influence factor, and I would just put it on the land at this point. I think I'm a little uncomfortable with $1,431,000 being a sale price or a probable sale price, given the issues. I mean, like Don said it, you walk in, you walk out, and you go, we can find something else for $1,400,000 in Arlington that doesn't have this issue. Maybe not in that neighborhood, but in parts of Arlington. So I started with 10 and now I'm actually thinking it's 20 after all the videos on the land. And so I came to $1,297,000.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in here. I would agree. My concern is, and we see this in other instances where we don't have a comp, or we just have one comp and we say, okay, that's the comp, that's the norm. We equalize it with the one, but sometimes equalizing it with, not in this case, but something wrong, we've seen that in other cases, doesn't make it right. It just makes it equalized. You know, when I look at the other outside influences, this is unique. The county admitted that this was unique. There is no other place that has this type of disruption next to it. And I think if any one of us were going to buy this house, any one of us would say, oh no, I'm gonna move right on, just like Greg said. When you look at Route 50, you know, I-66, like, yeah, that's ongoing, it's constant, it's white noise. Talked about this. This doesn't seem to go away, and the noise isn't just traffic going through where you can kind of, so you've got backup beeping, you know, you've got, you know, I mean, I was kind of surprised because like I said, I thought it was really more of just the bus garages, which, not to say that the bus noise isn't horrible. We've all stood at a bus stop and heard the noise. It's, you know,
Stage
still
area too.
right to have it, but that's where my concern was when I see that the county's using it for other purposes too. And granted, this may not be a permanent thing, but as long as it's being done, you know, I think there should be more of an adjustment.
I could do that too. I'm looking at this as a minimum. And that I would accept, but I would not have accepted something less than that kind of adjustment. But I do understand, I agree, it's an exceptional property.
You know, and even I-66, we talked about this just
The other day,
the other day, I can't remember what day, but you know, the one house that was above the
names.
no, above the
the wall,
wall. You know, I mean, I-66 was there, that was different. This is different. This wasn't there when these properties were first put in and when people purchased these things. Right. You know, and
I agree with
I agree
you.
with
Everything you said, it's unique. The air pollution might be similar, Fillmore, Route 50, noise sure is not. For sure, getting about 66. Occasionally, on George Mason, we've heard this before, of course, there are occasional ambulances and we respond. Yes, they're obnoxious. Yes, the ambulances were there in the hospital before you were and your house was. Nonetheless, this is different. This is more chronic than that. And 20%, I think, is justified as well.
Right, so, and I think, and again, if and when the garage is moved, and all this goes away, well, then I think that's a different story, but, you know, I think the appellant has created an argument that I certainly saw.
Yeah, I agree, it's high. So if I understood the county correctly, we apply an additional percentage, that would be permanent going forward. So this bus station is not necessarily permanent going forward, so I don't necessarily do that. I just
Wait,
apply
I'm sorry, you said it would be permanent going forward.
the adjustment, the percentage adjustment.
Anything that we do is for 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
If for some reason the county didn't
Okay,
do it,
even
it
if
would be
it's
back
even
here
a
again.
percent.
Okay, so I think I'll be okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't be permanent, it would run
Okay.
for the current year. I'd like to think that if the bus garage was still there, it would be done prior to the BOE next year. See what happens then. What do you think?
This is
Well, I agree. Even if there was no adjustment, any percentages, you know, I thought the increase that they had from last year to this year was more than what the neighborhood had, you know, 1.2%. And using that percentage, you really bring it down like to 1.380 something. But yeah, I mean, I visited the site for just a couple of times. Late in the evening, not too late. Yeah, I mean, you can see, you know, looking from the back, from the parking lot to their house, it's just, yeah, it's really so close that it's really like no other property that I've seen. Pretty much get out of the car and shake somebody's hand. So yeah, for this two properties, I think we probably can make adjustment. And I'm okay with the suggestion you still have this one.
Can you repeat what you came up with there, Mr. Hoffman?
Yeah, I put an additional 20% outside influence negative adjustment on the land, which came out to 535, 840 on the land and 761, 200 on improvements.
Is that a total of 20 or an additional?
20% additional on the land only.
Okay,
So
not
total
above-
number is $1,297,000.
So you're making it 30%, 10 plus 20.
More or less, yeah.
It is 30%, but it is, I mean,
Well, there's 10 on the county's taking 10 on the land and the improvements. I don't have an additional 20% on the improvements. I don't know enough about the inside of that house to make that determination.
right, the 1,209,000, what he came up with this.
$1,297,000.
And what's your land value then?
535, 840.
Mark, can you live with it?
I think it's additional 20. I thought it was talking about an additional
I
10,
know.
Me too.
but 535 is not that. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Hoffman, would you like to make a motion, please?
Yeah, I'll motion to reduce the assessment to $1,297,000 even.
I'll second, all in favor? Aye, opposed, okay, it's unanimous. RPC 150400054 is reduced to 1,297,000 even
That's by increasing
by increasing the adjustment on the land another 20, putting the land at 535, 840. You got that? Did you get that?
I heard you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were looking at me like you didn't.
No,
Okay.
that wasn't the look.
That was a different look. Thank you. All righty. Okay, the last case on the agenda is RPC 150400055 at 3811 14th Street North. Questions from board members? Anything? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Hoffman, you didn't have a question.
No,
Okay, all right, Mr. Shelton, if you want to take a minute to do any final wrap up.
The county used the same methodology in this case as it did all the other three. At sites around the county that we would normally compare this type of service to, and that would be our top four. And we recommend that 2024 evaluation of $1,508,800.
Mr. Meyer, take a minute to wrap up on this property, sir.
Yeah, I guess I'd say, so you may have noticed that the Trophimincos have never been at any of these hearings. Maybe you know that they don't actually live full-time.
They have a ton.
You know, I mean, they now have a tenant, they're living in Florida. I don't think that should have any bearing on the valuation. The only thing I think that does have a bearing is the fact that they've got those vehicles, as I highlighted when I did the videos, that, you know what I mean, occupy the first row of parking spaces. How you want to factor that in, I don't know, but I think that's the only thing that's relevant to distinguish between my property and theirs.
And it could change at any time.
And I'm sorry.
It could change at any time.
Can I just make one other comment? Is it really not, this is now back to my property, but the bottom line, whoever said that basically, so we build a wall. So we built a wall, a retaining wall, and then we built a fence on top of it. It's to the height, the limitations of the height. The second story of our house is 50 feet above the Quincy site. So there is no affordable solution or even legal solution to basically provide what you know, I think it was Mr. Matkins. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. It's just among the board then on this final case. So where are we on this?
I mean, the question would be whether we apply the same percentage to the.
Mr. Hoffman, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I had the same rationale. Take 20% on the land. $1,369,900 total.
I'm sorry, can you give me that number one more time?
Yeah, the total would be $1,369,900. And the land value I had at $555,760.
Where's everybody on that?
Makes sense to do that again.
All right, okay, Mr. Hoffman,
All right, I'll make a motion to reduce to $1,369,900.
okay, I'll second, all in favor? Aye, opposed? Okay, it too is unanimous. Parcel 150400055 is reduced $1,069,900. Thank you, everyone. That completes the agenda. Is there any other business? No, then we will stand adjourned at 10:46 and reconvene Tuesday. We do not have a hearing. Will be next Wednesday. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Pleasure.
Thanks. You can see why we're so frustrated in terms of the video.
I'm sorry, I know.